Hello YouTube! In today's video I'm going to present to you guys the bulking plan I've been employing for the past year and a half to put on muscle and gain weight. While of course as a natural bodybuilder the most important variable to get bigger and to build lean mass is what you do in the gym, what you eat outside of the gym is what is going to fuel that progress. And so if your bulking plan is not solid, you're going to put in a lot of effort for not much results at all. Which is why today I want to focus on the subtleties of the bulking diet because it goes beyond just being in a caloric surplus. You have to take things into account like carbs to protein and fats ratio that is going to depend based on the individual. You have to look at your meal timing. You have to take into account the hydration factor. You have to look at the taste of the food. All of that compounded is going to make or break your bulking plan. And because I want to make sure that if you bulk, you end up succeeding and putting on mass, I'm going to make sure that I outline all of that in today's segment. But the point of the video is not for you to just copy what I'm going to talk about, because naturally each plan is tailored for the individual that makes it. My plan is very specific to my needs. Rather, what I want you guys to think about is look at all of the factors I'm going to be outlining and try to apply them to your own journey for your own benefit. But before we get into it, if you like these videos, please consider supporting the channel on Ko-fi. It is thanks to your support that I'm able to keep making content consistently. Without the monthly pledges, this channel wouldn't survive. So I want to extend a big thank you for everyone who is currently pledging, and let's get started with the video. And let's begin with carbs. I don't know if you guys caught it, but when I tossed the bag of rice, it exploded and now there's rice everywhere. I'll clean that up later. So carbs for me is everything because I'm a carbs guy. And so it makes up the majority of my diet. I would estimate that 80% of my total calories come from carbs. And that is going to be up to preference. Some people do very well with this. Some people like more proteins, more fats. It is something that you're going to have to play around with. I personally in the past employed a high fat, high protein diet and it did horribly for me. I gained a lot of fat, I was sluggish, I was not able to perform in the gym, and my health suffered. So this is what works for me. And in terms of my daily routine when it comes to carbs, I love bread. Bread is something that I consume on a daily basis. I have no issue whatsoever with gluten, and I have found that on a bulk, something like a sandwich is actually a lifesaver because it's very cheap, super easy to make, and you can really pack on a lot of calories in a sandwich because it's not just the bread. You can put in whatever you want. You can put in veggies if you like, mayo that tends to have high calories. It is something that is highly underrated because people think of sandwiches as a fast option on the road, for example, but it's not just that. You can employ it, for example, to spread butter, peanut butter, honey, all sorts of things that are going to spike your calories up, that are going to make a bulk very, very easy. When it comes to things that are easy, I also love some croissants. I don't think that is a surprise to anyone. Croissants are my food of choice in the morning because I personally am not a morning person. When I wake up, the last thing I want to do is to cook. And so it's very nice for me to just be able to grab one of these, pop them in the microwave oven, put some jam on it, some butter on it, and I eat that and I'm good. I usually eat 3 to 4 for my breakfast with some whey protein. That is another carb option that I really, really favor. Then, when I have to talk about the king, when I have to open up my heart to you guys, I have to mention rice. Rice is my everything. Rice is what I eat the most of, and it's the food that I've consumed the most in my life. And for me, it's white rice all the way. I really don't like brown rice that much, but this, if I cook it myself and I make it sticky, I can eat it literally every single day, several times a day. And if you mix in things like sauce and like meat, that's it. That's what I bulk on. This is my thing. On top of that, rice digests like this for me. I've never had any issues whatsoever. It doesn't constipate me at all. It's high in calories for the satiety aspect, so I can eat a lot of it and not get completely full, which allows me to then eat more throughout the day, get more calories in. Of course, it's going to also spike my insulin levels. It's going to fill my muscles with glycogen, which is going to be extremely beneficial when it's time to actually get a good workout in, because it's going to fuel my endurance and my performance. So I think that for most people who are trying to find a base for their bulk, rice is a very, very good option. But we also know that rice is a high glycemic index carb. So if you're the type of person who is a little bit worried about insulin sensitivity, you might want to go for something like brown rice, or maybe with something like a sweet potato option that is still a carb that is still going to be good for you. I personally don't like them that much. If I'm going to go for lower glycemic index carbs, I'm going to eat quinoa or lentils because these appeals to me much more. Now, when it comes to carb cycling, I know that this is a big term in bodybuilding. For me, the way I approach it is extremely simple. On days where I train upper body, I'm going to eat a lot of carbs for the reasons I just explained. It's because it's going to fill my muscles with glycogen. It's going to allow me to get a better sensation. It's going to allow me to eat several muscles with several sets and to still feel like something is happening. Like I'm not entirely depleted by sets 3, because if that's the case, then the day is just over. Then on the lower body days, I'm going to eat much less carbs and much more protein, because I don't need that much energy. The energy and the real hunger effect I will feel after my lower body. That's how my body works personally. When I train legs heavy, on the days I train legs, I'm not super craving food, but the day after, my body comes and asks for all of that energy I spent. This is when I'll eat my carbs. But on the days I eat the legs, it's going to be something much more animal product oriented. And then for days where I don't train at all, which happens once a week for me because I train upper lower 6 times a week, I'm going to go with no carbs whatsoever or very moderate carbs. I'm going to eat much less calories. So technically this is the one day of the week where I'm not in a caloric surplus because I'm not going to be training on that day. This is something that I employ personally because it aligns with the way I feel. Most of the time on rest days, I'm not that hungry at all and I'm not going to force myself. I have 6 days out of the week to be in a caloric surplus. So this is usually the way the carbs are going to be spread out for me throughout my week. And overall, I think that this is sound advice for anyone who is interested in putting on muscle, who is interested in bodybuilding, because unlike what some of you might have heard, no, carbs will not make you fat. Carbs in moderation, carbs, when used intelligently, are going to actually fuel your progression and fuel your muscle growth, because it's going to fuel your performance in the gym, which is what we want when we are on a bulk. But I also want to make sure that you select the proper sources of carbs. So for example, try to stay away from over-processed sources and products that contain a lot of carbs while at the same time containing a lot of sugar. The issue with these products being that since they're low on fiber, they're not going to be satiating at all. And because they're high on sugar, they're going to keep you craving for more. This is the case where, yes, you can get fat from carbs. But if you stick to things that you're going to cook yourself, like rice, like pasta, you should be in the safe zone, quote unquote. All right, now moving on to a different source of carbs with fruits and veggies. So for me, where I live, I don't have a plethora of options because it's extremely cold throughout the year. So things like bananas, things like apples, I eat several times a day. Always as a snack. If I feel peckish, if I want something sugary, especially, I'm always going to go towards these options in priority. Never towards things that are more processed, because these are higher in micronutrients, higher in fiber, and so they're going to actually make it so that I don't have to actually return to that food times and times again. And on top of that, they are actually delicious. I think that a banana is peak sweetness. In my opinion, that's the perfect balance that nature provides. Anything higher than this is just going to eventually turn out disgusting. We have also options that are on the green side. So I love asparagus, for example, very easy to cook in the oven. They do make your pea smell terrible though. We have zucchinis. These are favorites of mine. Likewise, extremely easy to cook. You just slice them up, you put them on a plate, put them in the oven for an hour with olive oil and salt on it, and there you go, you have a very easy meal you can mix with rice that is going to taste like heaven. Onions, naturally, for me, when it comes to rice, onions is the natural ally of it, because if you just cut that sucker up and you fry it in a pan and you mix it with rice, this is the most delicious meal you ever had in your life. It's the cheapest option possible. You can eat it 3 times a day, every single day for the rest of your life. You will never get tired of it. And then we have more standard options like salads. As you can tell, there is a towel in it. This is the sign that I live with a woman. And the salad option is not going to be the thing that is going to carry your bulk because there's almost no calories in it. But I found that for digestion's sake, it's just a good idea to end your day on a salad, especially if you're the type of person that struggles with, how can I put it graciously, with rejecting all of the food that you've ingested throughout the day. It's one thing to eat like a beast, but if you're constantly unable to then clean up your digestive tract, you're going to run into issues. I find that a nice salad with a balsamic vinegar is going to do that for you. And it's going to make it so that when morning comes, you start your day with a nice big poo. There, I was extremely gracious when I said it. So this is overall what I'm going to consume for veggies and fruits. You've heard it a million times from your parents. I'm not going to say it a million times either. Eat your veggies. If you're on a bulk, you should be eating more veggies than when you're on a cut. It's not an excuse. This is not just about putting on muscle, it's also about health and about feeling better. And at the end of the day, if you follow my tips, these things can taste more delicious than all of these overprocessed garbage you can get from the supermarket. All right, next up, we have proteins. I'm a bodybuilder, I want to build muscle, I'm going to eat some proteins, but I eat much less than you would expect. For me, I get around 100 grams a day, which is roughly 0.5 grams per pound of body weight, because I'm between 215 and 220. So that's fairly low, but I personally grow from that, and so I don't see any reason to eat more. Most of the proteins that I see on this table is from animal products because that is my favorite source. This is what I like to eat. I like the taste and I like the digestion profile because I digest all of these products extremely well. And when it comes to things that I'm going to favor, it's going to be fish. So I like my smoked salmon. I like my trout. I'm going to show it to you later. I like some poultry. So chicken or turkey is the two things that I favor. If I can get my hands on some duck, I also love duck, but it's sort of tough to get where I live. And I also, of course, eat some eggs. But with this all said, it doesn't mean that I stick to animal products. I also eat things like chickpeas and lentils when I want plant-based proteins on days, for example, where I'm not going to be training and I don't want to eat too many calories. I also like stuff like tofu. I just don't have it in the fridge right now. Quinoa is also a favorite of mine. If you cook it properly and you know how to season it, it can also be extremely, extremely delicious. So if we get into the particulars, let's start with the fish. So fish is, I think, the animal that I consume the most of. I eat a lot of canned fish. It's usually going to be twice a week, either tuna or salmon. And I eat it only twice a week because of the amount of mercury that can be found in some of the bigger fishes out there. If you want to be certain that you don't overconsume, you can just restrict your consumption like I do. But you just have to look at the food chain to understand what fish tends to be higher in mercury. The ones at the top of the food chain eat a ton of small fish, and so they accumulate much more mercury in their flesh. If you eat smaller fishes like sardines, you should be good. This is the reason why people tell you not to eat too much tuna. Tuna tends to be very high on the food chain, so their mercury content also tends to be high. Then I also consumed fatty fish twice a week as well. So this one is trout. I've recently fallen in love with trout. I find it much more flavorful than salmon. It also gets less dry when you cook it. For me, trout is cooked on a pan because you can really keep the inner juices of the fish while getting the skin outside, especially like the actual scales of the fish, grilled and crispy and delicious. I know that I'm making you guys very hungry. I'm getting myself hungry just talking about it. These guys are going to be consumed tonight, by the way. So perfect timing for you. And then there is smoked salmon. If I could eat smoked salmon every day of the week, I would. It's my favorite food. The issue is that it's extremely expensive and also that it might not be super good for my health. But this is what I favor when it comes to fish. When it comes to eggs, that is the big controversial topic. I eat eggs, usually 4 to 6 eggs a week. Okay, I don't eat 4 to 6 times eggs a week. I eat 4 to 6 eggs a week. This is my middle zone. This is where I'm comfortable. This is where I think that I'm getting the most benefits without the detriments. Some people will tell you that 1 egg a day is going to kill you and that it greatly improves the risks of mortality. Okay, I've read these studies. Some people will tell you that this is bullshit and it's just propaganda and you can eat as much eggs as you want. It doesn't matter. It's perfectly good for your health. These are the people who are going to eat 12 eggs a day and tell you that that's how Arnold got big. To me, the two camps are sadly ignorant because they're way too dogmatic. There is a just in between. I think I am meeting that in between, but you can do whatever you want at home. And talking about things that people tell you will kill you if you eat them, we also have olive oil. Olive oil is my favorite seed oil, and it's also the only oil that I personally use for cooking, for salads. I eat it every single day. I put it literally everywhere, just like my ancestors have been doing for literally hundreds of years, which explains why our skin is so oily. We literally became the olive oil because we consume so much of it. And unlike what some people might say, no, it doesn't come directly from the hair. We don't just take the hair and just squeeze it into the bottles. Or if you have seen someone do it, it was their own personal family recipe, but that's not how my ancestors do it. So this is my choice when it comes to things that I'm going to use to cook all of my meals. I understand some people have a big raging boner against seed oils. I understand that some of them are not super ethical and they are not great for you, like palm oil, for example. As for myself, I will stick to my olive oil because I love it. Likewise with butter. Butter, this one is actually French butter, de Britannie en France. I put it on the pan when I cook certain meals. I'm going to put it on bread if I'm going to have a toast with jam. I like butter. It's the only dairy product I allow myself to eat. I eat it in very small quantities, once, twice a week sometimes. I put it in pasta. It's also where I get my fats from because if you look, this is mostly proteins naturally, but a lot of these sources also come with fat. Fat is not something I keep a close eye on, but as a natural lifter, to keep your hormone levels in check, you need to consume fat. To me, that's the way I do it. I do it as a byproduct. I don't look for fat. Fat is not super important in my diet. I favor carbs, but I get it from sources that I actually enjoy. Now, when it comes to poultry, so this one is chicken, nothing complex at all. I also like turkey. I used to eat a lot of chicken back in the days, and I still love it. Now, the way I approach chicken nowadays is I always mix it with rice. I don't eat chicken and rice. I take chicken and I make a sauce, and then I mix it with the rice. So here I have an example. This is not chicken at all, but to show you what I mean, when I say that rice is my go-to, I think that as someone who is running a bulking plan, you need a go-to. You need a meal that you're going to be able to produce out of thin air at any given point of the day, because that's what makes or breaks the bulk. Most of you guys who are not able to stay consistent on the bulk, it's simply because times and times again you get surprised or you get put in positions where life gets in the way and you cannot eat enough calories and you say, fuck, I messed up. That is because you don't have a go-to. But if you have this, you are going to be perfectly fine. So this is chorizo that my wife made me. And then at any point throughout the day, if I feel hungry, like right now, or literally after this video, I'm going to eat this. I have my rice. If you see rice with this color, you know you're getting the good stuff. And then I'm just going to mix it with the chorizo and I'm good to go. It's a very easy, high-calorie meal that is going to carry me through my squats tonight. This is super important. I personally don't meal prep, not as much as I used to do. When I was in grad school, every single Sunday, I would prep my foods for the entire week simply because I had literally no time to cook. But I also found out that this was wasting a lot of food, and also I was ending up I was ending up with a ton of food in my fridge I simply did not enjoy because it had gotten stale. Nowadays, I like to take my time, if I can, to cook every single meal. So that trout I showed you, I'm going to cook tonight. Just tonight, and it's going to be fresh out of the pan. Why? Because it's also a moment I enjoy. I think that if you can make your bulk a series of rituals that you enjoy, it's going to be much, much easier to actually stick to it. So, since I like to listen to podcasts and cook, I also have pushed meal preps because it simply does not align with what I enjoy doing nowadays. But it's still a good idea to have in your fridge a few options that are already available that you cooked beforehand. So another example I have for you guys, something that I made just recently, actually yesterday, it's still fresh, is pasta with bolognese sauce and some turkey. Right? Just right there, you have enough food to satiate a grown-ass man. I just have to pop it in the microwave oven and it's absolutely delicious. You notice that everything that I'm showing you is things that I cook myself. This is a great time to tell you guys that if you don't know how to cook, you need to fucking get to it because it's an embarrassment for a grown man to not be able to feed himself. It's also the cheapest way to feed yourself. I know that groceries are very expensive, but I can tell you that if you're savvy and smart about it, it's going to save you a lot of money. Stop being the guy who orders food. You don't realize how much you're wasting on top of that. These restaurants don't give a fuck about your health. They will put whatever in the food as long as it tastes good and it keeps you going. So please learn that skill. Cooking is a skill. And if you actually put in the time, you'll realize that it's a fun skill to have and ladies like it. Ladies like a man who can cook and who can feed them. Bet your ass that when I brought this bolognese pasta to my wife yesterday, she was over the moon. Naturally, what woman doesn't want their man to feed them? And if you're going to go down the road of the cook, you're going to have to procure yourself some spices because spices are going to make or break the taste of your food. All right, now on to spices. Much more important than you might think. Actually, I don't understand perspectives at all. They're supposed to get closer to me if I can show them to you guys. So, yes, spices don't contain any calories. Yes, they don't contain any micronutrients. But what they do contain is they taste fucking delicious. And so if you put them on the food that contains the calories and the macros and the micros, it's going to make it so much easier to take down. You have no idea. Please stop eating bland foods. It does not make you hardcore. It makes you look like a twat. Why would you put yourself through something so stupid? Why would you not make your foods as delicious as possible? Well, if this is what you want to do, you have to utilize all of this, especially if you're on a bulk. You have no idea how much easier it is to take food down when you can modify the taste of the food with the spices that you put on it. And I can tell you for a fact that if you learn how to employ these, you can make food more delicious than any restaurant. If I can take you to my home and serve you my home-cooked meals, you will never set foot into a restaurant again. You will never order on DoorDash again because you will be able to do better. So let's talk about the spices. Number one, poultry seasoning. You love chicken? Get yourself some poultry seasoning, put that on that sucker in the oven for 25 to 35 minutes. It's going to be the best chicken you've ever had. Paprika, I personally never use it, but it does look pretty. Sesame seeds, that's my wife's stuff. I think she puts it on bagel. It's still 4, which tells me that she hasn't been using it at all. Mushroom umami, I don't know the pronunciation. This on vegetables, no longer vegetables. No longer vegetables. Better than any animal products you've ever tasted in your life. This on ratatouille, forget about it. Warm salt. Warm salt. You heard me right. It's also named, my wife wrote the spice because she's a big Dune fan girl. But the spice is also called iguane salt. It's something that you find in Mexico. This is amazing. As the second I tasted it for the first time in my life, I never really went back to sea salt because this gives a kick to every single recipe. Proof of the matter is it's almost empty. I need to buy more because I put it on every single dish. Warm salt, look it up. If you're the type of person who doesn't want to eat bugs, it's fine. They're finely paced. It's a fine paste of worms. Your belly tastes the bugs. This is so delicious. I think that calling it the spice is not an understatement because you're going to get addicted. We have Japanese seasoning with some seaweeds in there, some sesame seeds. This also can go on bread. It can go on rice. We have tajin, which is another option for salt that gives a citrusy, lemony bite to things. Garlic powder. If you're a cook, I don't need to sell you on garlic powder. Garlic powder can go on literally anything. Try eggs and mix it with garlic powder. You're going to love it. Onion powder, likewise. It can go on anything, anywhere. This will save your bulk if you are not able to eat anymore. Cumin, that I almost never use because I hate it. And then Italian seasonings, ma che cono. Very good as well. Something that I also like on chicken, turkey in particular. That's the dream team right there. These are my babies. Okay? This is the bare minimum, all right? Do not be the type of person who cooks with sea salt and pepper and then who wonders why their food tastes bland. It's because you're not utilizing the full potential of the word of spice. So if this video teaches you anything, it's that you have to go out there and get yourself some spice. You don't have to learn on the internet or to take cooking classes. I learned from experimentation. I learned from taking spice and putting it on dishes. Sometimes it's terrible, sometimes it's amazing. When it's amazing, I just keep doing it. That is it. Once you master spices, every single food you will ever cook for the rest of your life will be absolutely delicious, which also means that every single bulk you will attempt from now on will be a cinch. It's going to be so easy. Next up on our list is hydration, which is something that is almost never discussed when talking about bulking plans. And yet it is absolutely essential because if you are not hydrated properly, your performance in the gym will suffer, your recovery will suffer, and your health will suffer. So you have to take a good look at this right there. Personally, for me, hydration is water. That's all I drink. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink tea. I certainly don't drink soda. This is it. This is literally all you need, right? I personally prefer to filter my water because I do not like bottled water and tap water is not the healthiest. So get yourself a carbon filter, which is extremely cheap and effective. Filter all of your water and that is it. You don't need to panic about tap water poisoning you. If you do that, you're going to filter out most heavy minerals that are detrimental to human health. And then you have to drink it. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the taste of water. That's unsurprising. Water has no taste and you're not supposed to have every single thing that enters your mouth taste like sugar. But it's something that is absolutely essential because a lot of these drinks, instead of hydrating you, literally steal these water resources from the body and so they hamper performance. The worst, of course, being alcohol. If you go on a big alcohol binge, the next day you're going to find that your performance is going to be absolute crap for a reason. It's because it literally taxed your body. So please make an effort and drink some water. And if you are the type of person who has the diet under control and you eat clean, also don't make the mistake of staying away from salt. I know that, especially when I was growing up, there was a big demonization campaign against salt. Salt is going to kill you, it's going to spike your blood pressure, it's going to make your heart explode. All of that is nonsense, at least for people like us who take care of their health. If you are someone who trains regularly, who sweats regularly, and who eats clean, meaning foods that you cook, you most likely are deficient in sea salt. Meaning that yes, if you're the type of person who pops lasagna in the microwave 3 times a week, you're fine. That lasagna has enough sodium to carry you through the desert of Gobi. But if you make your own food, you most likely don't eat enough salt. And so you have to replace it. You have to keep the cycle going. So make sure that this is an integral part of your diet. Do not overdo it, of course, but I can tell you that most of the time you eat much less than you actually need. And that also goes for most minerals, which is why the idea of buying bottled water is not terrible if you can actually make sure that the provenance of the water is from somewhere that is not just selling you tap water in a bottle, which happens more often than you think. And you also have to look at the mineral profile of the water, if it's beneficial or not. Now, I understand that water, as I said in itself, is not super exciting because it doesn't taste that good. If you're the type of person who struggles with that, here's what I tell you to do. Get yourself some lemon. This is going to greatly help your hydration. The same works with nectarine, with clementine, with cuties, with oranges, les agrumes in general, things that you can squeeze into the water. And it's not just a question of taste, it's also going to greatly help your digestion. I know that for me, a ritual I have is, if I have a big meal, I know that it's going to sit on my stomach and it's not going to help me sleep peacefully. So what I do is, I get a liter of water, I squeeze a full lemon in it, and I drink it entirely before going to bed. This completely alleviates any type of discomfort, and it just makes digestion much more easier. On top of that, it gives you additional vitamin C, which is always good to take. So overall, I think that if you are a bodybuilder and you are bulking, you need to pay closer attention to your hydration. Do not just drink anything randomly. If you truly are dedicated and serious, you must ban things like sodas and you must drink more water. And finally, the least important items on my bulking plan, the supplements. I feel the need to say this and insist because I know that noobs tend to put a lot of priority on these products, thinking that they're going to make a big difference in muscle growth. In reality, they do almost nothing. What matters in a bulk is the food that you eat and that you cook yourself. This, as the name indicates, is just a supplement. So personally, what I take is these three things. That's it. I don't take no pills. I don't take no testosterone. This is it right there. The first is a good whey protein. You can hunt for one yourself. I am not sponsored by Jocko Willing, by the way. It's just that this turns out to be the brand that I love the most. It's the cheapest that I've found. It's also the one that tastes the best because it has a peanut butter aftertaste. It has digestive enzymes, so it doesn't sit on my stomach. And since I'm someone who is trying to avoid dairy as much as possible, this is something that I greatly appreciate. That's it. That's pretty much that. I mean, whey protein is whey protein. It's just a way to supplement your protein intake. I take 1 scoop a day, sometimes 3 to 4 times a week, and that is it. If this ends up being the majority of your protein intake, you're doing your bulk wrong. If your breakfast is a piece of toast and a protein shake, you're doing your bulk wrong. Then we have creatine. Creatine is one of the supplements that is the most researched that we know actually works. It's something that I take every single day. I don't deload on creatine. I take much more than the dose that they indicate. And I've never had any problems, liver problems or shit like this. My hair is as thick as ever. Now that depends on the individual. I know that some people get hair loss from creatine, so just try it for yourself. And if it's making you have hair loss, just cut it. For me, I found that this helps with work capacity, so it aligns perfectly with what a bulk is. It allows me to put in the work in the gym. So I love it, I take it. And then we have MSM powder. It's a joint supplement that I personally have been taking non-stop for the past 5 years. I fucked up my knees a long ass time ago and no product worked, nothing worked until I tried this. Now, warning, this tastes like donkey ass. You're not going to enjoy this. It's super fucking bitter, but it does work. And so if you're the type of person who's looking for a joint supplement, I highly recommend this. On top of that, it helps with hair growth. I don't take any hair supplements. I don't have a hair routine. Some of you guys are asking me, but I know that this is something that greatly helps with that. I've found that if you're the type of person who already has a lot of hair growth, this is going to boost it tremendously. It also makes your nails grow much faster. So in terms of subs, this is it, right? This is a very small budget. It doesn't cost much. This is cheap as fuck. This is fairly cheap as well. This as well. I think that if you take this, you're covered. Your bases are covered. Anything else, all of these things that promise muscle building, all of that is bullshit. If you can find a supplement that helps with muscle building straight up, it's steroids. It's going to fuck up your hormonal profile and it's going to be made illegal, so avoid it. At the end of the day, as I said, what matters in a bulk is real food. And that is going to conclude this video. So, as you've seen, I eat like a regular person. It's a comment I got on an earlier video I made on my diet, or someone was surprised that a bodybuilder would just eat normal things. Yes, it's just the way it's supposed to be, right? All of these bro diets that you see being pushed by pro bodybuilders, it's theatrics. They do it because they like to suffer and they like to look hardcore, but the results don't come from these diets. And you have to make sure that you understand this, because I know so many natural bodybuilders, natural lifters in general, who have fallen for these pro bodybuilding diets who just burn out because they're just painful, they're unsustainable, they taste bland as fuck, it's always the same foods. Of course your bulk is going to fail. You set it up to fail because you're following the wrong example. Instead, do what I do. Eat like a normal human and stay away from extremist diets. It's not just pro bodybuilders. It's a big fad in the fitness world to push these diets that entirely banish portions of the food pyramid as if these things are just out to get you, as if these things are going to kill you if you eat just a smidgen of it. That's bullshit. The majority of the foods, if eaten in moderation and if cooked by you and not processed, are perfectly healthy. Use your brain, use your own personal experience. Don't allow people to fearmonger, and you're going to find that your diet experience and that your bulk is going to be much more pleasurable and also much less of a fucking headache. Another thing I recommend is look into your ancestry. If you can understand where you come from, it's going to be much easier to understand the foods that work for you. If you're someone who is a descendant of Vikings, there's a chance that you're going to thrive off of dairy and off of meat. If you're someone who descends from people who are poor peasants, I know that now people call high carb diets peasant diets. Well, my ancestors were peasants in Europe, and unsurprisingly, I eat a lot of carbs, and my body does just well with that. All of this is a question of figuring out what works for you, and most importantly, what you can stick to and enjoy. The goal of a bulk is to enjoy your time in the gym, is to be able to actually have a good time. If it's painful, you won't stick to it and you won't get the results that you want, because always keep in mind that what matters in a bulk is the ability to train hard. Training hard and consistently is what is going to build the muscle, is what is going to utilize all of the calories you're eating to actually create lean mass. And if you can get these two factors to work together, a solid bulking plan and a solid training plan, you are going to build muscle, you're going to have an aesthetic physique. There is no way around that. But if you're wondering what one of my day of eating would look like, I would recommend you check the description. I made a 4-day of eating video. And once again, if you want to support the channel, please check out the first link in the description, that is the coffee page. But that is going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching and have a good day.